இந்தியாவின் தலைநகரம் டெல்லியில் நேரு ஸ்டேடியத்தில் 2025 ஆகஸ்ட் மாதம் 24ஆம் தேதி மாலை 4 மணி அளவில் இந்திய யூனியன் முஸ்லீம் லீக் உடைய தேசிய தலைவர் முனிரே மில்லத் மாண்புமிகு கே. காதர் மொய்தீன் அவர்களின் தலைமையில் நடைபெற்ற போது இந்த கூட்டத்தின் தொடக்கமாக மாண்புமிகு கபில் சிபில் அவர்கள் கூட்டத்தின் தொடக்கத்தில் உரையாடி சிறப்பித்துக் கொடுத்தார்கள்.
जनाब कपिल सिब्बल साहब को जो इस मुल्क में एक जाना माना नाम है, हर उस शख्स के लिए जो पिछड़ा हुआ है, जो दलित है, जिसके साथ ज्यादती हो रही है. जनाब कपिल सिब्बल साहब न सिर्फ मुल्क के और सब लोगों के लिए खड़े हैं, वो मुस्लिम लीग के लिए, इंडियन यूनियन मुस्लिम लीग के लिए एक ख़ास नाम है. हमेशा हमें जब भी कोई मुश्किल आई जिसमें हमें अदालत का दरवाज़ा खटखटाना पड़ा, जनाब कपिल सिब्बल हमेशा हमारे साथ रहे. तो ज़ोरदार तालियों के साथ कपिल सिब्बल साहब का इस्तकबाल कीजिए.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, let me congratulate the IUML for the inauguration of the Qaid-e Millat Center, which is going to happen virtually, I believe, very soon. Sayyid Sadiq Ali Sahab, Thangal Sahab, Chairman of the PAC IUML, Professor K.M. Kader Mohiuddin, National President IUML, Mr. P.K. Kunalakutti, MLA, General Secretary IUML, Mr. E.T. Muhammad Bashir Sahab, Member of Parliament, Dr. Abdul Samad Samadani, Member of Parliament, Dr. Abdul Wahab, Member of Parliament, Advocate Harris Beeson, and a very, very dear friend of mine, Member of Parliament, Mr. K. Nawaz Kani, Member of Parliament, and all the honorable delegates gathered here today. Harris mentioned just before he called me to the dais that I have to say something about the manner in which the voters list is being prepared in the oncoming election in Bihar. But before I do that, let's go back a couple of months to what the Home Minister of this country has been saying from the rooftop, namely, Bangladeshis have entered into Bihar. And that originally is the rationale for doing this, what is called the special intensive revision of the roll voters list in Bihar. Now, very few people know what the special intensive revision is. The last time that it was done was in 2003. And what happens in the course of a special intensive revision, that the block level officer called the BLO, who's a representative of the Election Commission, goes to every household and inquires from the household as to how many members there are, who is presently living there, has any of them moved out of his permanent place of residence, what are their ages, have some of them attained the age of 18 so that they can go and vote. So the entire voters list is in fact de novo prepared for the purposes of ensuring that there is purity in the voters list on the basis of which people go and vote. This was last done in 2003. As you know that before 2003 there was no digitization in a sense of the voters list. But in 2003 that happened. But this process took about 243 days. So it's not a process that can be completed in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It took 243 days to be, for this process to be concluded. Now, when the voters list was prepared, then every year on January 1 of any year, this voters list is updated. An updation is done through a process called a summary revision. In other words, every January 2001, 2004, January 2005, January 2006 onwards. January 1, the voters list is updated till 2025. That's the requirement of the law. So in fact, the Election Commission had a voters list in 2025, which was uploaded pursuant to a special intensive revision way back in 2003. And the chief election commissioners have been telling me personally, who have retired, that there is no need for a de novo special intensive revision because it was already done, and all that is needed, all that is required is to update it. But as you know, as I started and told you, that it is the Home Minister who keeps on saying from the rooftops, but Bangladeshis have entered into Bihar. Now, in the course of what has been happening in Bihar, the Election Commission has not cited a single Bangladeshi who has come into Bihar. Not a single Bangladeshi has been cited. So obviously, it was a ruse. Now the question is, why are they doing this? And the reason is very simple. Right from 2014, the BJP has been adopting methodologies, adopting procedures through which they can somehow win the election by means fair or foul, and most of them are foul. They have, in the process, they have manipulated the laws. In the process, they have used the PMLA, that is the Enforcement Directorate, to prosecute people. They have been forced to use, or they are using the CBI for their political ends. This is what is called the weaponization of the laws. And in the meantime, as you have seen in Maharashtra, they added votes to ensure that they win. And in Bihar, they are deleting votes to ensure that they will win and manipulating votes. So the whole purpose of the exercise is to manipulate the voters list, which is the bedrock of the Indian democratic system. In other words, if the voters list is polluted, there can be no fair election. And they know that because the people of the country have now realized that these people in the last 11 years have not delivered for the people of India, naturally they know that the people of India are standing against them, and come 2029, they'll be defeated in the election. Therefore, they are trying to manipulate the voters list in every state in this country. The next they will go to is West Bengal. Thereafter, they're going to various other states. And you've seen the attitude of the Chief Election Commissioner as how he has failed to answer questions. After all, if for the last 11 years, the BJP is in power, how is it that people have come from Bangladesh and come to Bihar? And if some of them have come, that's the responsibility of the Home Minister. How can he use that as an excuse to say that I will redo or de novo decide on redoing the voters list? Now, what does this voters revision involve? As I told you previously, every block level officer would have to go to each household to find out as to who is present there, who is come of age, who is now going to be included in the voters list, how many people have died, how many people have moved out of their ordinary place of residence. But this time, this method is not used. Now what they are doing is, they say that every household will have to fill what is called an enumeration form. And that enumeration form has certain criteria which are required to be filled. And there are 11 such documents in the enumeration form. And what the Election Commission says is, not that they go to any household. They say, if anyone in a household who is of voting age has any one of the 11 documents in that enumeration form, he will be entitled to vote. Now, according to us, this is an exclusionary exercise. For example, they say if you have a passport, you are entitled to vote. How many people in Bihar have a passport? 2.84% of the people in Bihar have a passport. They say if you have a class 12 certificate or a class 10 certificate, how many people go to schools in Bihar in class 12? Many of them drop out after class 10. So lakhs and lakhs will be excluded in the process. Then they say if you have a pension certificate. Now, how many people are employed in Bihar who can show that they earn pension? These are only government servants who will be earning pension. That's very few. So the purpose is that if they don't have any one of these 11 documents, then they shall be excluded. Then they say you should have a school certificate or you should have a birth certificate. Now I know, and I can say that for myself, there are many, many lakhs of people in this country who cannot produce a birth certificate. They say, okay, you produce your father's or your mother's birth certificate. Supposing a woman is married in Bihar and she comes from another province, another state, or she comes from another part of Bihar, she has to go back to the family and find out what is the birth certificate, where is the birth certificate of her father, or what's the date of birth of the father. Most people would not know. So in a sense, the whole exercise is an exclusionary exercise. And the purpose of an election commission is to include people in the voters list. In other words, it should be an exercise in inclusion rather than an exercise in exclusion. And that's what the election commission is doing. With great difficulty, we were able to persuade the Supreme Court of India to say that, look, why don't you accept the Aadhaar card as the basis for allowing a person to vote, whether it's a man or a woman? Now, almost 88.7% of people in Bihar have an Aadhaar card. As you know, Bihar is one of the most underdeveloped states in this country. The rate of literacy in Bihar is 61%, as opposed to 74% in the rest of India. It is 88% of the people of Bihar live in rural areas. 28 of the 38 districts in Bihar are flooded during monsoon. Where are they going to find documents to give to the election commission? And the level of literacy, as I told you, is only 61%. People don't know how to read and write. People don't know how to fill a form. So the result is that there is going to be massive exclusion of voters. And that will support the BJP, because who are the people who will be excluded? The poor. The poor will be disenfranchised. The scheduled castes, the scheduled tribes, the other backward classes, they'll be disenfranchised. Even the people from the economically weaker sections of society will be disenfranchised. So you disenfranchise the poor, who normally vote for parties who are pro-poor. You enfranchise the rich who vote for the BJP, and that process you exclude lakhs and lakhs of people, and you get the result that you want. So this is what is happening in Bihar. And all of India must rise to make sure that the Election Commission should not destroy the very backbone of Indian democracy. If the voters list is polluted, there can be no free and fair election. But the Election Commission doesn't want a free and fair election. They have been resisting demands by the opposition parties to tell us how suddenly in a state like Maharashtra, the voters' percentage increased after the voting time was over, namely after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Suddenly there was a jump of 9%, 10%, 11%. That's never happened anywhere. Now, of the 7.79 crores of people who are residents of Bihar, they say that 65 lakhs have either, 34 lakhs have deleted their names because they have passed away. Others have moved out of Bihar, and others who are migrants, they will not even know as to whether an exercise like an enumeration form has to be filled up. So the whole exercise is completely opaque. Luckily for us, the Supreme Court said, you give us the names of all those, give us the details of all those names who have been deleted and why they have been deleted. You tell us, as when you say that people have moved out of Bihar, who are the people who have moved out of Bihar? Give us the names of those that have moved out of Bihar. Now, if the BLO, that is the block level officer, has not gone to a household, how did he delete the names? How were the names deleted? Obviously, the representatives of the BJP at the level of the block level officer ensured that those who are likely to vote for the opposition, their names will be deleted. So now the cat is out of the bag. That's as far as the 65 lakh people are concerned. But we are still left with 7.24 crore people. Now, as far as 7.24 crore people are concerned, they have to upload the enumeration form. Now, they say that as far as the 2003 voter list is concerned, all you have to do is upload the enumeration form and you will be accepted as a voter. But if you don't upload the enumeration form, even if you are part of the voters list in 2003, you will not be allowed to vote. This is extraordinary for an election commission to take that position. After 2003, you have to fill in one of the 11 documents which are exclusionary in nature. Now, of course, the Supreme Court has told them, allow people to include their Aadhaar number, because if they have the Aadhaar number, then they should be entitled to vote. This has been done in the context of 65 lakh people whose names have been deleted. We have been persuading the Supreme Court that for the 7.24 lakh people, crore people whose names are still on the voters list, at least they should be allowed to vote on the basis of their Aadhaar card. The battle is still on, but the battle is not going to end here. This battle has started from Bihar. It will reach every state of this country, and all the leaders of the IUML, all the leaders of the Congress party, all the leaders of the TMC, all the leaders of the RJD, all the leaders of all opposition parties must get together, stand up for democracy in India. That is the only way that this country will survive, and that's the only way we can rid of this vicious, toxic rule which we have suffered for since 2014. Thank you very, very much.